Let's take a journey through time, a story of invention, innovation, speed, and style. From wooden carts to electric marvels, this is the complete history of cars. But first, pump your brakes and hit that like button. And please subscribe so you can reverse back to the channel for new content. In the late 1700s, inventors dreamed of self-propelled vehicles. In 1769, French engineer Nicolas Joseph Cugnot built a steam-powered tricycle, huge, clunky, and slow. But it was a start. Through the 1800s, steam-powered carriages popped up here and there, but they were dangerous, heavy, and hard to control. People still relied mostly on horses. Then came the game changer, the internal combustion engine. In 1885, German inventor Carl Benz built the first true automobile, the Benz patent motorwagen. It ran on gasoline, had 3 wheels, and could reach a staggering 10 miles per hour. Not long after, other pioneers like Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach jumped in. The age of the automobile had begun, and we humans loved the sensation of speed. We wanted to go faster and faster, but the rudimentary engines were too weak. Something was needed to maximize their potential. The first supercharger was designed by Scottish engineer Dougal Clerk in 1878 and used with a 2-stroke petrol engine. Then Gottlieb Daimler patented the supercharger for use on internal combustion engines in 1885. These devices increased engine power by forcing more air into the cylinders than the engine could naturally intake, which allowed for more fuel to be burned, resulting in increased power and torque. The thrill of speed resulted in racing, the first Grand Prix being held in Pau, France in 1901. It was won by Maurice Farman, a British-French aviator. Fast forward to 1908, and a man named Henry Ford changed everything. The Model T certainly wasn't the first car, but it was the first car that average people could actually afford. Why? Mass production. Ford implemented the assembly line, perfecting it at his Piquette Avenue plant in Detroit, Michigan. Suddenly, cars were rolling off the production line faster and at a lower cost than ever before. Over 15 million Ford Model T cars were built and sold before production ended in 1927. This allowed Americans to hit the road. Cities expanded, more roads were built, and it wasn't long before the car became a symbol of freedom. A few years after the Model T was produced, a new kind of engine was created. Rudolf Diesel was a German engineer and inventor. In the 1890s, he developed, you've guessed it, the diesel engine. It was more efficient than the gasoline engines of that time. His invention ran on compression ignition and could use various fuels, including peanut oil. It was originally aimed at empowering small businesses and farmers, but its use as a power plant for battleships and submarines soon started to intrigue the navies of various nations. In 1913, Mr. Diesel boarded a ship called the SS Dresden to cross the English Channel from Belgium to London. He was on his way to a meeting with the British Navy, who were one of the parties interested in using diesel engines in their submarines. But he never made it. On the night of September 29th, Diesel ate dinner and retired to his cabin. The next morning, he was gone. His bed hadn't been slept in, and his nightclothes were neatly folded, untouched. About 10 days later, a body was found by a Dutch boat crew. It was too decomposed to identify, but it had Diesel's belongings on it. The crew, strangely, threw it back into the sea, which was apparently common practice at the time. So what happened? No one knows for sure, but there are 3 main theories. 1. He self-deleted. Diesel had financial problems and reportedly wrote a few strange notes to his family, leading some to think he jumped overboard into the frigid English Channel. 2. Murder. Others believe he was killed by agents of big oil companies or even the German government, who didn't want him helping the British Navy or threatening the dominance of the petroleum industry. Or 3. It was an accident. It has been suggested that he simply fell overboard in rough seas, though this is considered unlikely. Maybe someday we will know the truth if some new discovery is made. But for now, the mystery of Mr. Diesel's death will rumble on. In this early era of the motor vehicle, people were still experimenting and imagining what the car could be. There were crazy inventions like this, the Layat Helica, a car powered by a large propeller instead of a traditional drivetrain. Or this Reeves Overland Octo Auto with its 8 wheels. By the 1930s and 40s, cars start to look sleeker. Manufacturers like Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, and Rolls-Royce began to blend quality engineering with luxury and beauty. The style of vehicles like the Packard 12 Coupe and the Cadillac Phaeton would become synonymous with the era. At this point, there were a lot of advances in technology and engineering, mostly due to the forced innovation driven by the Second World War. Bigger, more powerful engines were needed. A lot of them involved the use of turbochargers. Although the turbocharger had been invented by Swiss engineer Alfred Bucci all the way back in 1905 and was first used commercially in the 1920s, it was during the Second World War that it really found its wheelhouse. After World War II, the world was ready to drive again. And it wasn't long before the world saw its first supercar. The Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, often referred to as the Gullwing, was a groundbreaking production car that reached a top speed of over 150 miles per hour, making it the fastest production car of its time. While it was the British Sunbeam Bluebird that first hit 150 miles per hour on Pendine Sands in South Wales in 1925. That vehicle was a raw, experimental machine. The 300 SL was pure luxury and style, blended with a touch of danger and excitement. The 50s and 60s brought wild tail fins, chrome grills, and bigger, faster engines. At the same time, European automakers like Volkswagen, Fiat, and Citroën focused on small, efficient cars, better for narrow streets and rising fuel costs. Then came the muscle car era of the 1960s and 70s. Fast, loud, and all-American. The Mustang, introduced in 1964, became a sensation, especially among the young working class. It was originally predicted to sell 100,000 vehicles yearly, but it became the most successful vehicle launch since the 1927 Ford Model A, with over 400,000 units sold in its first year. The Dodge Challenger and the Chevy Camaro were also very popular at the time, finding their way into songs, TV shows, and movies. But the 1973 oil crisis hit hard. Suddenly, people cared more about fuel efficiency than horsepower. Japanese automakers like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan rose fast with affordable, reliable, fuel-sipping cars. The U.S. car industry suffered because of the high oil prices and increased competition from foreign auto manufacturers, resulting in lower revenues and a change of strategy. The cars became boring and cheap, and unfortunately, the age of the muscle car came to an end. In the 1980s and 90s, cars got smarter. Onboard computers, fuel injection systems, and digital dashboards become the norm. Safety improved with airbags, anti-lock brakes, and crumple zones. The need for speed was still there, though. The Ferrari F40 is often stated as the first production car to hit 200 miles per hour in 1987. But the little-known Pontiac Toucan hit the insane speed back in 1984. It is often overlooked probably because only 135 were produced, and it was based on the Pontiac Firebird. Car culture continued to change and diversify. SUVs and minivans ruled the suburbs, while compact cars ruled the cities. The speed demons out there started to tweak Japanese cars due to their reliability, readily available aftermarket products, and their strong motorsports culture. They were a blank canvas for enthusiasts to customize and enhance the performance of. Maybe the most famous of these being the Nissan Skyline, otherwise known as Godzilla. As climate change became a common theory, the push for cleaner cars began. In 1997, Toyota launched the Prius, the first mass-produced hybrid vehicle. It was ugly and not really eco-friendly when you look behind the scenes, but it did put us on the road to electric vehicles. The world was skeptical at first, but the age of eco-cars was here. There had been attempts at making them all the way back in the 80s with the Sinclair C5, and there was the General Electric EV1 in the 90s. But now Tesla entered the scene with its electric roadster in 2008, and later the Model S, which disrupted the entire industry. Suddenly, electric cars weren't weird, sci-fi dreams anymore. They were fast, stylish, and high-tech. Today's cars are rolling computers. They park themselves, drive themselves, talk to your phone, even update wirelessly while you sleep. Electric cars are on the rise. Autonomous driving is around the corner. Companies like Tesla, BYD, Rivian, and NIO are rewriting the rules while classic giants like Ford, GM, BMW, and Toyota are racing to catch up. So from steam to electric, from horseless buggies to AI-driven speed machines, the car has come a long way in just over 100 years. And the journey isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started. Thanks for coming along for the ride.